2015, and the world's most powerful drug trafficker.
Tunnels.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
It's 2015, and the world's most powerful drug trafficker.
Tunnels.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the 2021 Festember Carpe Diem, brought to you by the Festember Guest Lectures. Today, we have a very special guest to showcase in this online edition from Guest Lectures. He is a retired FBI agent who has devoted 28 years of his life in fighting the war against drugs and in bringing down one of the most notorious and dangerous cartel head, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman Loera, who was a former leader of the Sinaloa cartel from Mexico, who evaded prison not once but twice by building a legendary motorized tunnel from his prison cell for 4,000 feet long and escaping. Our guest has also helped in bringing down the Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas, who were an ex-military organization waging tremendous bloodshed throughout Mexico. And he is currently very much involved in the ongoing wars and the welfare of general community. So, with no further ado, we welcome Mr. Arturo Fontes to share his stories and experience with us.
Pleasure to be here. It's a privilege. Thank you, Govind, and it's nice here. I'm calling you or talking to you from Houston, Texas.
Yes, sir. So thanks a lot for making time since you have already been traveling. And being this Good Friday as well as Easter on Sunday, we are really happy to have you with us.
So thank you.
Yes, sir. So talking about traveling, you had mentioned in your recent National Geography interview, the first militaristic war on drugs, that you moved from the calm, sunny, sandy beaches in San Diego with a nice big house to a small town in the armpit of Texas. Could you elaborate more about it and tell us what encouraged you or motivated you to do so?
Yeah, some people think I'm crazy for doing that. I grew up born and raised in San Francisco, California. San Diego, I believe, in my personal belief, is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Right there on the water, its borders to Mexico, and I had a lot of good friends there, close to my parents who lived in San Francisco. And what happens is you marry someone. I married my ex-wife is from Texas, and at that time my daughter was 6 years old, And she said, I'm leaving the Texas, whether you're with me or not. And I decided, what the heck, I'll go with you. And we went to from beautiful San Diego in a beautiful house on the golf course. I moved to the city of Laredo. If in case you haven't been to Laredo, Laredo is a small town, about 150, 200,000 people. It's there's no buffer zone, so you're right on the border. Other cities have, like San Isidro and San Diego and Phoenix or Nogales has, it's you're right on the border. Laredo is a we joke around, it's like the armpit of Texas, but it's not too bad. It's a nice city. People are very friendly. There's not that much to do. There's a lot. Most people are very friendly there, and people get out to eat and have barbecues and. But right there, it's so small that I would take my car to the vet, and I see a leader of one of the local gangs that's tied to the cartel that's right across from me. And when you're talking to him, how's your day? And he knows who you are, and you know who he is. And so it's so small that even some of the cartel people live right there. And my life was threatened there. And so you're sleeping with a shotgun on MP5, safeguarding your family. So it was tenuous at times.
Yeah. And you had spent a tremendous amount of years, 28 years in the law enforcement is a very big commitment to us. So what encouraged you to do that? Be staying in a particular same thing for a very long period of time is something not many people can do.
Being an FBI agent was my dream. I became an FBI agent, since I was in sixth grade. I wanted to become an FBI agent, especially at that same time when I was in sixth grade. I had a good friend of mine. He was about 2-3 years older than me, and he was actually brutally picked up by a group they called the Zodiac Killers in San Francisco, and he was killed. And at that time, I was just traumatized by his death, and the police had a hard time finding him, and that was a great impression on my life, and why I wanted to go into law enforcement was to be able to uncover crimes that people are afraid to do, and it's something that's my passion, and I've always wanted to do it. And being a police officer, I wanted something better. I wanted something that you could travel and work something internationally, and that's what the FBI was about.
Yeah. So you mainly specialize on fighting the war against drugs and all these criminal cartels and all these things. So did you have any incident in your childhood days or throughout your teenage years where you experienced something firsthand which motivated you? You have to do this, so you started fighting against this one. Or was there any specific thing or specific event which you had?
One of the big things that was impressionable was when I was actually a support staff initially at the FBI in San Francisco, and what really had an impact on me was the kidnapping of Enrique Camarena. He was a former DEA agent. No, he was a DEA agent in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, and he was actually kidnapped in Guadalajara. He was one of the few people that was kidnapped there, and actually was killed by the Felix Gallardo, and actually Chapo Guzman at that time was a hired hitman, but he was not involved in that assassination. But it was part of the scene. It was actually the Sinaloa cartel, and that's when I really got to start working drugs. And it happened in Guadalajara, and it's something that Enrique Camarena was someone that I valued. I kind of wanted to be like him. I wanted to meet. I never got to meet him, but I wanted to be like him. I wanted to have an impact on drug, against drug trafficking. And I saw, firsthand, in California, cocaine and marijuana, were rampant at that time, and I saw that how much of an impact that had on people. People would, sell everything to buy drugs, and it really had an impact, and that's why I wanted to get into the FBI, DEA or FBI, but FBI to me was something more. You could work organized crime. You could work foreign counterintelligence. kidnappings, extortions. It had over 260 violations that you could actually work. So that's what was nice about something like that. Drugs, if you work at DEA, you only work with drug trafficking or money laundering. But FBI, I worked the Pent bomb investigations, which was the attack at the at the Twin Towers in New York, and so just focused on more on why and what and chasing Chapo and what impact. That was my thing. Was meant. Kike Camarena was one of the agents that was killed, and I kind of wanted to be like him.
Wow, that's very nice. So, sir, you had mentioned El Chapo working for Felix. So, was there the point of time when, as soon as Felix got arrested, El Chapo came into power along with Ismail Zambada, right? So, from there, you spent around 10 years, around a whole decade in finding El Chapo and curbing his cartel. So, what were the hurdles you faced while catching him or like trying to find him? And could you tell us more about the time and the experience you spent in doing so?
Yeah, he was, as you know, back in 1995, he was arrested. He escaped from jail the first time out of Guadalajara, and then at that time we were looking for him, and then we caught him again, 2000, I believe 11, and then he was released, and then he escaped again, and so. But during that whole time period, I knew a lot about the organization. We worked getting indictments, and getting witnesses on Guero Palma, which was his right-hand man. We were working the Arellano Felixes, but just a little bit back, just to, briefly, Chapo Guzman, after the arrest of Miguel Felix and all the top leaders of the Federation, Chapo Guzman was fighting for the tunnels. The tunnels were a big thing for him. And he had a lot of the tunnels throughout Baja California, through Tijuana, across the border from San Diego, California. And the fighting that Chapo had with the Arellano Felix was that he wanted the tunnels. And so we were working the Chapo Guzman when the Arellanos wanted to kill him at the airport, and a Catholic cardinal was killed in the incident. We were also investigating the death of a politician, Colosio. Chapo was not involved with it, but Chapo was always a central focus on a lot of our investigations because of the Sinaloa cartel. The battle wars in Juarez, where thousands of people were killed, in Laredo. This fever of violence, and this is when you would see, I know that in other parts of the world there's terrorism, and I know that our government wanted to identify the Zetas or the cartels as terrorists because some of these people were skinned alive, they were beheaded, videotape of their torture was happening. There were IED explosives in some areas. Grenades were being thrown inside clubs, and people were being injured. These cartels were terror groups, in my opinion. We did not want to name them that because by name in Mexico, that there was terrorism in Mexico. It's like Mexico, the Mexican government, or even the cartels were harboring terrorists, and a lot of monies and resources would go there, and so it was a touchy subject because it would affect our economy, to fight drugs. So our government did not want to label Mexico as that was harboring terrorists. When I say harboring, it's because a lot of the corruption in Mexico was permitting these people to operate with impunity.
Yeah. So you had mentioned about El Chapo going through tunnels, and tunnels was his major thing. So even during the video of him getting captured, he went through a tunnel which was built under his bathtub and all these things. And then even during the shootout, about 5 officers were killed, and it was a very bad blood scene. But his main thing was escaping from a safe house was basically through a tunnel under his bathtub. Were there any other tricks which he used to do to evade such things?
Yes. I did 2 tours in Guadalajara, 98 to 2000, and then 2011 to 13. And even throughout the whole time, I was always investigating the Sinaloa cartel, and especially at that time the Zetas or the Gulf cartel. When he escaped the second time, we worked closely with the Mexican government and tried to capture him. And one thing I want to say to everyone is that not one person could be responsible in capturing Chapo. It's a group effort. It's a team effort. There's analysts that are checking numbers. Other agencies get a piece of have a piece of information that is very valuable. We work as a group. I was fortunate enough to be in Guadalajara, in Jalisco, and my areas of operation were Sinaloa, Nayarit, and Durango. Chapo was actually hiding out in those three areas, in Durango, in Sinaloa, and Nayarit. Chapo had one very sophisticated way to communication. He would invest a lot of money in technology. But one form how he did what he did was because we executed search warrants with the Mexican government in Baja California, in Cabo San Lucas, and also in Nayarit, where I personally was, I worked it. And I remember traveling to Nayarit, where there was, where we would have problems. See, Chapo had three layers. I mean, he would be like in one house, and he would have someone close to him. If he wanted to relay a message, he would talk to someone, a second level. He would tell someone, and then that someone would tell a second layer, and that second layer or third layer would tell the person who would want to be talking to. So let's say if we were looking for him, we would always hit houses, and the houses that we would hit were people that were relaying messages via telephone. And while we would hit some of these houses, you would see 7, 8, 9 different telephones, and all these people in these houses would just be relaying information. And so, that's just one way he would evade capture, is that he would use sophisticated technologies and also use different layers to relay his communications. He was very disciplined with that. He left his guards down when he wanted to go public and go to the different media and talk about himself. And the same cartel, which is Sinaloa, which is Miles Zambada, allegedly gave up his whereabouts because he was becoming a liability for the organization. And the Mexican government believed it. What surprised me was that Chapo had so much information about the cartel, about corruption at the highest levels, and I was surprised that when they extradited him, he gave a lot of information on the former president Peña Nieto, Garcia Luna, who was a security chief for the whole of for Mexico, and also information. Some of the witnesses also provided information on the Secretary of Defense of Mexico, and that was one reason why Mexico is really taking care of not extraditing people like they did before, or at least high-level people, because it compromises the government, because the corruption is systemic and it's at the highest levels.
So is this also a way where he kept on growing his drug empire throughout the world? He's said to be owning around 90 to 95% of the world's whole drug trade. So despite all these measures which he takes to keep escaping from the police, what all did he do to keep the operation going? Was he directly involved in the operation, or did he have other people? Because the main reason to capture a head is to dismantle the cartel so that the drug which flows into the world reduces, right? So
Yes.
How did he still keep it up? What was he doing?
The cartels operate like a business, like a corporation. Somewhat sort of like a government agency, where, for example, you would have a leader, which would be Chapo. He would be like the division head or like the president of the company, and within that you would have groups, cell groups that one person would be in charge of the cocaine trafficking, another group would be in charge of security. So you would have different layers, and it would be systemic. So like they already plan ahead that if Chapo gets arrested, all the phones are changed, and there's already someone that's going to take his place immediately. And a lot of the monies are being kept in different houses, which is cash. A lot of it is kept in Bitcoin. A lot of it is kept in a lot of hotels and businesses that are in operation with straw owners of these businesses. And even though these people get arrested, the organization or the whole system, how it's in place, it continues to operate. As long as a company has money the company will still operate, and that's why part of the work that I also do is I also teach 1 week a month with the embassy in Mexico, and we instruct on anti-money laundering, because money laundering is now becoming so valuable, for the cartels, and if we disrupt their money and seize their money, forfeit their money, at least it disrupts them to continue to operate years after this. An example right now, we're talking about monies and organizations. Smuggling of human smuggling is a multi-billion-dollar operation. You have people from China, Africa, and other parts of the country, and just the Mexicans that are crossing. Each Mexican that crosses the border is paying $3,000 to $5,000. In just 1 month, you have 170,000 people coming in. A Chinese person could pay $25,000 to $50,000 just to come in. And some of these people are not going to South America. They're flying on airplanes from Europe or other places to Cancun or to Mexico, and they're being crossed over to the Pacific side in Mexico, and crossing the border to Mexicali or Sonora into Arizona. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. You ask yourself, with all this money, like Chapo, you said he's worth $2 billion. It's probably worth a lot more than that. Just that's how much these people are making in 1 year. Just with the one smuggling and the theft of gasoline, smuggling, drug trafficking, and they control the drug points in all the cities, and they have government contracts, in Mexico. So, it's a very lucrative business, and a lot of the politicians are involved in this, and there's corruption on both sides. There's corruption on the U.S. side, which is isolated, of course, but I just don't want to pick, the fingers just that Mexico is corrupt. I believe, corruption is everywhere.
Anyway, so after having the successful time, you have now started a company called Fontes International Solutions. So you started along with your colleagues who were your officers with the same mentality as well. And during that period of time, I assume you met Mr. Donald Trump through this firm of Fontes International Solutions. So could you tell us more about how the firm started as well as how you met him?
Well, I knew some friends that worked with him. A lot of the people that worked with Trump before he became the candidate for the Republicans, he actually hired retired NYPD and retired FBI agents to work in his security detail. So we were doing this, with just he actually would finance us. He would not pay us that much, but how I got to meet him was that when Trump was released from prison. Not when Trump, when Chapo Guzman was escaped from prison, he was, and Donald Trump made a statement that the people that are coming over the border are people that are thieves or bad people that come across the border, and so there was one or two of the sons made a comment to the open media. That Chapo was threatening to do some harm to Donald Trump. Oh. And so at that time, the Trump, along with some of the retired FBI agents that were working with Trump, they contacted the local federal agencies at the FBI, DEA, and ICE, and they were not getting a quick response. So I was already retired at the time, and they called me and says, "All right, could you find out and validate this threat against Donald Trump?" And what I did was I just left Mexico. I contacted the director of security in Sinaloa, in Jalisco, and I contacted old sources that I had that were working with the organization, and I validated it in with less than a day. That the threats were negative. That Chapo Guzman did not threaten him or did not have any intentions of doing harm to President Donald Trump.
Okay, that's a nice.
And so I got to talk to him, and I got to talk to some of the people that were working for him, and then they asked me if I wanted to help with the security. And so since then, I was able to work in doing his advances when he would actually travel to different parts in the U.S. I helped him on some of the campaign rallies before he became the president.
Oh, so this was way back. So it's way back around
Yes.
2015 time.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, that's nice. Okay, so moving on, we have a fun segment ready for you. So
Sure.
this is a segment where we'll give you 1 till 9 numbers, and you just have to choose whichever number you want, and I'll explain it to you whatever happens beyond.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can choose a number now.
Okay. Number 6.
Yeah. So number 6, this is basically the most Googled questions about FBI. So how does the FBI work? Is your first question. Like we would want you to answer in like short things so that we keep
Yeah.
moving on.
No problem. FBI works over 260 violations. It works at crimes where that the U.S. has any interest. Normally, drug trafficking, anti-kidnappings, extortions, foreign counterintelligence, and others.
So another question I see is, how was the FBI formed?
The FBI was formed back with J. Edgar Hoover, back in the early 30s, and he was working a lot of the organized crime or the bank robbers that were operating. And at that time, later on, the FBI became famous after capturing a lot of the fugitives that were causing harm. And at that time, our government did not have interstate violations. So if somebody committed a crime, a bank robbery in Illinois, and they crossed the border, they would be kind of a safe haven for them. And so that's when laws were formed where we could actually arrest someone for committing a crime in a different state.
Yes. So the next number.
5.
Okay. Yeah. So 5 is again the most Googled questions. Yeah. So did El Chapo work for Pablo Escobar?
Yes, they had an agreement together. A lot of the drugs that were coming from Mexico, the liaison that he had with Pablo Escobar. Yes, there was a relationship. Chapo was at that time also working with the Malo Carrillo. Malo Carrillo had a better relationship with Pablo Escobar.
Oh.
9.
Yeah, next. Yeah. So that's again another most Google questions. So is the FBI the government?
The FBI. Normally, people call the FBI when there's a catastrophe, not a catastrophe. When after 9/11 happened, the FBI was called because we were investigating terrorism. We normally get called on cases involving international or cases that are very difficult. The FBI normally gets involved.
Okay. Next
7.
number. 7.
7.
It's another Google questions. Okay. So how does the FBI watch my phone? Or do they spy on us?
Yeah, well, let me tell you this: our government, along with a lot of other governments, that's a pretty sensitive question. But does our government spy on people? As you know, like Google, Facebook, and a lot of these other platforms, our government, the FBI, has some form of if a crime is being committed, we ask and we subpoena, let's say Apple or these other companies to help us, and normally they will. But sometimes, like Apple would sometimes be reluctant to talk to us because if they gave us information and information that was crypted, a lot of people would not want to buy Apple because it seems like they would be always cooperating with our government. But in cases involving terrorism and national security, a lot of the information out there we'll be able to get.
Your next number.
4.
Yeah. So this is basically a video.
Did you kill?
where they are questioning a serial killer. So I just want you to know, tell us what do you think about it, and is she lying, or what are your first thoughts as soon as you watch this video?
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you kill Meredith Kircher?
No.
Were you there that night?
No.
Do you know anything you have not told police that you have not said in this book? Do you know anything?
No. I don't. I wasn't there.
So we're just going to.
Yeah. So this was a short clip. This was basically from the serial killer. So what do you get from this? What is your deduction or analysis?
Normally, when an FBI or DEA, when they're interviewing someone, just from looking at their face, it's hard for us to really tell if the person is lying or telling the truth. Normally, we would break it down. Let's say I was talking to you, Govind. I would break it down and I would talk to you where you're from, just like when you were asking me, and I would break it down and I would really make you feel really really comfortable with me. And then as we start talking, and then I would actually ask you some questions about the crime, and I would ask open-ended questions. You don't ask somebody, how old are you? You would ask somebody, you seem like you've been around, a long time. Where have you been? You would ask questions that are open-ended that the person could talk openly. And as the person is talking to you, and you start kind of unraveling the situation, whether an incident happened, he starts giving you really comfortably exactly what happened. And then once you have a good scene of what happened, he's going to tell you some things in the story that are just, they don't make any sense. It seems like he's overlooking some things. So then you go back to that, and you're still not happy with the answer, because it just doesn't seem right. It seems like there's a little gap right there. So then you ask him the same question a different way and see how he answers it. And then you start seeing some uncomfortability. And normally we work on partial truth. Let's say, Goman, I know a little bit about you. I know where you live. I know a little bit about your family. So, and in this case, if I really think you did the crime, I would give you some information to make you believe. But I only know segments, and I kind of playing a gambling game with you, because I'm telling you something that you may that you think I know a little bit more, and I throw something in there that you may think somebody else is cooperating, and I'm going to use a little bit of psychology, but I'm going to give you some water. I'm going to make you feel really comfortable. I'm going to make it look like I am your best friend. At the side, there's always somebody else that's a little bit more aggressive and is unfriendly towards you, and you don't like him. But that's always something that we use so that we could make this person, make you feel uncomfortable. But I'll be the kind of the nice guy. But on that case that you just showed me on that video, when you asked that last question, are you lying about the police, or that the police didn't tell you? She kind of turned her head and looked to the left or right, and looked a little bit uncomfortable with that question. I would definitely see it, and she looked very intense and kind of nervous about the question. Somebody that is innocent would be a little bit more open and really would feel some remorse. She seemed like she was really trying very hard to not tell you, to make it look like she's telling the truth. Someone, I believe. So just that last question it made her feel uncomfortable, and her eyes looked to the left, and then she moved her face a little bit to the right. That was a problem question. So I would definitely be suspect of that. I couldn't confirm 100% that she was lying, but I knew that there was something she was hiding.
Yeah. So nice. So with this, we'll come to an end for the live segment, and let's go back to the interview questions.
Sure.
So a general question is how to become an FBI agent.
Okay, how do you become an FBI agent? You definitely need to be at least 23 years old, and they require at least a 4-year degree. And there's different areas, like 5 different areas where you could get in. One of the areas is if you speak a foreign language. And there's some critical languages like Chinese, Spanish, even Arabic, Hebrew, and there's different languages that the Bureau, is looking for. The other way is you have to have good physical condition. You have to pass a physical test, running a mile and a half or 2 miles within a certain time limit, push-ups, sit-ups. And you have to be able to pass, once you get into the academy, you have to be able to learn how to shoot a gun. But to become an FBI agent, you have to have a clean record. You have to have, at least when I got in, they asked you if you had drug use. And if you use drugs, that could be a deterrent for you not to get in. Keep in mind that there's thousands of people that are applying. Only like 5% of the people get into the FBI. So if you have someone that uses drugs or used drugs and someone that didn't, they would get to maybe someone that didn't use drugs. I believe the Bureau hires a diversified group, from someone that's Hispanic, that speaks Spanish, someone that fits in. If you want to have a guy that is investigating a crime in India, you don't want an Anglo guy that goes in there and doesn't fit in. You want someone that looks Indian, that speaks the language. And so we look for people at different backgrounds that look differently, not just someone, that's ubiquitous, that's someone that looks Anglo. You want someone that speaks different languages and fits in with the population.
Yeah. So according to you, what is the biggest misconception about the FBI from the TV or social media and all the others?
If you look at the TV set, the movies about the FBI is normally, if it's a series, it's probably 30 minutes or 1 hour. And they go over the whole case in 60 minutes, and it looks like the agents are on the streets all the time. And the misconception is that the Bureau is very bureaucratic. It requires a lot of paperwork. It requires a lot of investigation. When we're going to arrest someone, we have so much information already on it. We already have surveillance, and we spend a lot of times in the office. I would say the misconception is that it's not, totally where you're out on the streets all the time. One thing that's interesting is J. Edgar Hoover, when he was the director, and I actually got in 1984 as a support staff, became an agent in 1987. But I remember the agents were telling me that J. Edgar Hoover only wanted you in the office 10-20% of the time. And if the supervisor saw you in the office, he says, get out of the office because you're not going to investigate a crime inside the office. And now, if you go to any FBI office, you see a lot of the agents in the office doing their own analytical checks and writing their paperwork and doing their investigation, in the office. And that's a big change. But I believe that the biggest misconception is that the Bureau is bureaucratic, and it does it takes time to do your investigation. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. So what do you think about legalizing marijuana, especially in Mexico? That's a very big thing which happened.
Yeah,
So
it's a big thing that's happening, and I can tell you firsthand from talking to some sources. You're seeing, cartels, whether it's the Cartel de Jalisco, the Sinaloa cartel. A lot of their family members are now involved in investing and using straw owners to be able to work and have a monopoly on sale of marijuana. So you're going to see even Mexican politicians, the people that are going to win are the cartels. Now they're going to have a legal way, to make money and to be able to sell their marijuana. Is this going to decrease the flow of other drugs? No. Is it going to decrease the violence? No. It's getting worse every day. I'm concerned right now about the security situation in Mexico. But marijuana is something that if people that normally it's tested that people that use marijuana sometimes experiment with other drugs, whether it's cocaine, whether it's heroin, or other drugs. And unfortunately, it's not a cure, for people that to have less addiction.
Yes, sir. So coming to the end, just the last question from you. What is the advice which you would like to give to our young generation right now, or to everyone who's watching it right now?
I believe that the best value is to invest in yourself, and we're only limited by our creativity. There's nothing that we can't do. You have to be creative, and just be persistent on what you want to do. Being in law enforcement, at least in the U.S., in other countries. It's a rewarding field, and it's hard. You spend a lot of time away from your family, and sometimes you get up, you're depressed because you see close friends or people that are, that are dying or dying in front of you. And so, it's a rewarding career. I love the FBI. I always look forward to going to work every day. Every day was different. It's a great field. If you have a chance, it's a great field. That's really about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for giving us your time. With this, we come with an end to the first episode of Carpe Diem, which is brought to you by Festember Guest Lectures. Oh, so just a minute. We have another question. Any unforgettable moment in your journey? Just
Any
the last
unforgettable moment in your journey? I
Yeah.
would say that of all the work that I did, the biggest impact I did was actually, was a couple of times, but one incident where we had information about where there was a kidnapped victim in a house, and we actually obtained the information from a wiretap. We were able to break the door, and we were able to rescue 3 different people in the house in Laredo.
Wow.
To me, that was very rewarding. We were able to arrest the bad guys, and minutes before, we had the cartels, the Zetas, were actually coming over to pick up the victims, and we were able to save the victims and arrest the perpetrators. To me, seizing drug loads, arresting, having Chapo arrested or extradited. Nothing is more than saving a life, and to me, that was an unforgettable moment in my career.
That's very nice. That's very nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. So with this, finally, we come to the end of the first edition of Festember Guest Lectures 2021. Please make sure to go and check the YouTube handle as well as the Instagram handle to see many such amazing interviews, and hope to see you guys soon. Thank you. This is Govindarajan signing off from Festember Guest Lectures. Have a great day.